Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to construct an easy to make, easy to use roll-up shade, blind or green screen. My intended purpose is a roll-up green screen. That's why you'll see so much green in this video. Why should you make a roll-up shade yourself? Well, it's more economical than buying one at the store. You have a larger selection of fabric. And perhaps most importantly, you can produce the custom size you need. Before you start, decide what size your roll-up shade should be. If you want to hem the sides, add that in. You'll also need a little extra fabric in order to mount it at the top and weight it at the bottom. I'll show you just what I mean as we move forward through this demonstration. Before starting, you'll need to purchase all the materials you need. First, you'll want a pole or some sort of rod for the bottom. This can be a piece of PVC tubing or a wood dowel. It should be as long as you want the width of your finished shade. Get a 1x2 piece of lumber, also the same width as your finished shade. You'll also need some rope or cord. I'm using 550 nylon paracord with a working load of 110 pounds, which is overkill. But I needed something green, so my choices were limited. How much will you need? Double the height and width of the finished shade and multiply this by the number of ropes you plan to use to pull up and release your shade. This will ensure you have more than enough. Add a handful of metal eyelets to your list. I'm using 7, and metal hooks if you plan to hang your shade or screen. I used 2 hooks because I could only find 2 studs. You may be able to use a boat or rope cleat to hold the cords for your shade in place when it's pulled up. Because of the size of my shade/green screen, I needed to use 2 clothing hooks. I inverted one so I could easily wrap all the cord. My green screen will be 10 feet wide and about 13.5 feet long. It's that long because I want to be able to extend it out onto the floor. Your shade will most likely be no more than 8 feet tall. I've purchased a 10-foot piece of PVC pipe and 2 8-foot 1x2s. I cut 2 feet off the second 1x2 to get the length I need. If your shade is wider than the piece of wood you can purchase, you'll need to use a metal mending plate to attach the 2 pieces together. I first tried using joint fasteners and duct tape, but that didn't work. Learn from my experience. Using a sewing machine, I created a pocket in my green felt fabric for the PVC pipe that runs along the bottom. Alternatively, you can staple, screw, or nail the fabric to the round material you have chosen. You might even use cable ties. For those making a green screen, I chose green felt instead of cotton because it doesn't wrinkle easily. I use staples to fasten my material to the 1x2 that runs along the top of the shade. You can also use tacks, small nails, or cable ties. I pre-drilled the holes for the eyelets that support the ropes and then screwed in the 7 eyelets I used. 2 each are placed at each location perpendicular to one another in order to secure your cord or rope. The last eyelet will be screwed into the very end of the 1x2. It's used to gather together all the cords for your shade and bring them down to the boat cleat or other hardware which is used to secure your shade when it's in the rolled up position. Attach the rope extending down from the back of the shade to the eyelet that points toward the ceiling. Tie or knot it there. Attach the other end of the cord or rope to the eyelet on the front of the shade once you have looped it around the fabric and run it up in front. The eyelet here is positioned so that it is parallel with the ceiling. Run the cord through the other eyelets on the way to the solo eyelet at the end of the 1x2. Run it through this eyelet and down to the boat cleat or other hardware you're using to secure it. Repeat this process for as many cords as you use. You don't want your shade to sag, so don't scrimp on how much cord or rope you get. Since my shade is 10 feet wide, I'm electing to have 3 cord runs to pull up and release my green screen. If your shade is narrower, 6 feet perhaps, you may only need 2 runs. Your shade or screen is now constructed. If you plan to hang it, all you need to do is screw hooks into the beam or 2x4 where you plan to connect it. Hook placement needs to match up with your eyelets. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Good luck constructing your shade or screen.